Hello, everyone, and welcome. I am Kevin Prake, and I am joined by the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, the ring announcer for nearly 29 years, the voice of New England, Mr. Rich Palladino. Rich, how you doing today?
I'm good, Kevin. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, thank you. I wanted to put in that you were the cream in the coffee or the sugar in the coffee, but I decided against it.
That's okay. Whatever. I'm a man of many hats, including the one I'm wearing right now. Sorry I didn't dress up, but
Well, that's fine. You dress up more, you dress up enough for everybody else, so you gotta have a night off sometime.
yeah, absolutely.
So you're known around the region as the voice of New England. And I was wondering how you got that moniker.
Somebody just gave it to me, and I wish I could remember who. And it's funny because Bobby Cruz and I, we always kind of like joke about it. He's like, because people would like debate like on message boards back when that was a thing, like who the real ring announcer of New, like as if that's like an actual thing. That's as dumb as, the senior official on a referee staff. It's like, come on, just get over it, please move on. And Bobby said, no, he was just like, no, Rich is the voice of New England. I said, yeah, of course, because you've been the voice of Japan and England and Ring of Honor for 18 years. I mean, I can't hold the candle to that. So thank you for my 6 New England states. And yeah, no, honestly, somebody came up with it and it just became like a thing. And I know I've put it on my 8x10s and stuff like that. It has a great ring to it. So wish I could remember who, but I just took it and ran with it. So
It's crazy.
yeah.
It's wonderful that people cheer and support you so much. And people come up to you and just thank you for like what you do.
Yeah, it blows my mind. If somebody told me when I started this in 1993, I mean, I technically started in 92, but my first ring announcing gig was in 93. If somebody told me that, 53-year-old me would be standing at a merchandise table selling t-shirts with my face on it or pictures or lapel pins or whatever, or being liked and appreciated by, it's a thankless job, but it's become like super thankful. Like it blows me away. I get like speechless. I get very emotional about like my role and, you know, that reaction and that response and respect from fans and wrestlers alike is why I'm still doing it after all these years. So, and I'm not jaded and I'm not miserable. And I get miserable when I'm on the road for too long, like on a weekend night and whatever. But yeah, it's mind blowing to me. So I'm appreciative. So anybody that sees this, thank you for accepting me into your world. So I appreciate it. Our world.
It's a big community. It really is.
It is. And there's no fans like wrestling fans. The most dedicated, loyal fans in the world. I am one. So, I mean, I totally get it. I mean, you can see stuff behind me and on the walls and whatever, but the belt was a gift, but it's, it's an amazing industry. And like I said, there's no more loyal, passionate fans than wrestling fans anywhere in my mind. So
What is So you mentioned being a fan of professional wrestling. Like, how does being a fan of professional wrestling change your perspective on your job as the ring announcer for many of these shows?
If anything, it's given me more of a respect for what actually goes into this. Very closely connected with the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, the training facility for chaotic wrestling, where I've been for going on 22 years, and I'm up there often, and I still watch class, and not that I have any expectations of ever having to take another bump in my life. I've taken a couple or given a couple in my life, and I really don't want to do anymore. Um, but I don't think people really realize like how hard it is and how much dedication and how much pain and sacrifice goes into becoming a wrestler. So I went from like a fan that thought it was really cool watching it on my TV as a kid. I went through a phase where I thought I wanted to be a pro wrestler, to a point where I met somebody that I could really call a friend these days. Mario Mancini was at a WWF show at my high school back in 1985. I was 16 years old. Gave me the number for a gym in Connecticut to train. My mom, God rest her soul, was like, yeah, that's 3 hours away. I'm not driving you to Connecticut so you can go fall on your head. But I always wanted to be involved in it. So I think, like, to answer your question though about being a fan and now actually working in it, I've said this in numerous interviews. I wear a tuxedo because that's the level of respect I have for our industry. When I go to a show and I see a ring announcer in a t-shirt and jeans, or trying to put himself over with like a cowboy hat or a pinky ring or something, or a cane just to call attention to themselves, that's not the role of the ring announcer. So my tuxedo, and those aren't cheap, and I'm not sponsored, I mean, I purchase all my vests, all my ties and everything, and I want to look the best I can because I love the industry so much. But again, it's going from a fan to working in the business. You really don't realize how much goes into it. And there's tons of documentaries out there about what it takes and whatnot. So, I mean, it's not like I'm, telling any secrets or giving any new information here, but that would be the biggest thing, is from day one, from the day I broke in 1993 with the Boston Bad Boy, Tony Rumble, to today, I still have an immense amount of respect for all these athletes, for what they do and the sacrifices they make.
And they are athletes at the end of the day.
And I always refer to them as such too. Every show, a lot of shows that I do don't have intermission, and the guys and girls are selling their merchandise after the show. And I would say, these athletes put their bodies on the line each and every time they step in the ring. And Lord knows, in 29 years, I've seen some horrific injuries, and I've seen some close calls, and I probably saw a couple of close calls this weekend. I mean, it's just, that's the nature of the business. But yeah, they are athletes, and people should give them more credit. A lot of people look down on our industry, and not as much as they used to. I mean, people know what it is, but there's so much athleticism that goes with it. There's a reason why I hold a microphone, because I'm not an athletic guy. Played high school football. That's about it. That's the level of it, and yeah. So I mean, it's pretty wild, but yeah, it's pretty much the whole deal.
Now, what comes with holding the microphone and being a professional name caller, a professional name reader, what is your general process when preparing to ring announce any given show?
I carve out about an hour of my personal time just to write up index cards. I notice as I get older, I might need to glance at the card a little more often. I've had a running roster going for probably 15 or 18 years. Took me a few years in the business to realize I have a spreadsheet with, if I've said your name once, it goes on my roster. And, that way I don't have to go in the locker room. What's your name? What do you want for your hometown? Where you from? Blah, blah, blah. So, I do spend, probably, depending on the card, I'll probably spend, 45 minutes to an hour writing up index cards before I get to the building, then fine tuning it for anybody I may not be as familiar with or what have you. Or even yesterday, I worked with this amazingly talented athlete from Damian Adams School out in New Jersey, Ashley Demboise. And she's been doing some AEW, and she's been some segments on WWE and whatnot. And I've always announced her from Fort Lauderdale. She told me at the end of the night, "Oh, I forgot to tell you, representing Montreal, Quebec, Canada now," because her family is of French Canadian descent. So during her matches, she'll be like, especially if she's a heel, she'll be like yelling at the fans in French and whatnot. So, her nickname's La Creme de la Creme, So yeah, she told me after the show, she goes, "I forgot to tell you, Montreal now." I'm like, okay, no problem. What did I do as soon as I got home last night? I updated her bio on my spreadsheet, so the next time we won't have to even worry about it. So yeah, I take my job way too seriously. I really do. But I just want to give a WrestleMania like performance every time I'm in the ring, and give these athletes the big build up they so deserve. So
it's incredible. It really is incredible what you do, and you add to the performance. I think there was one where Orange Cassidy handed you a Dunkin' Donuts napkin and said, "Announce me as this."
Yes. We had done two shows. We were in Philly actually the night. So that was in Worcester at the old Electric Haze, or at Electric Haze when we used to run there. And we were at the Chikara School in Philadelphia the night before. And he was wrestling David Starr, who's not really in the business right now, but he always had like 11 nicknames I would give him. So I DM'd Orange Cassidy and I said, "Hey, you're the performer, but I think it'd be kind of funny if we came up with something for you to slip to me to read, he's like, oh, I love that idea. I'll have something by the time I see you in Worcester. And sure enough, and he was just like, he goes, I'm going to write it on an out. And it's one of my favorite clips to watch back. I actually cracked up reading it because he's standing right in front of me, just going like this. And I just could not keep a straight face because his character is just so incredibly entertaining. Yeah, so that was kind of like a collaboration. So there's a little peek behind the curtain, but that was me like at the hotel the night before, at like 2 a.m. I'm like, dude, I think this would be a great idea. And he's like, oh, I love it. I'll see you in Worcester, And yeah, that played off really, really well. It was a lot of fun too. Lucky guy that some of the things I get to do. So
Now you
that's all I
mentioned.
got on. Sorry.
And you mentioned that you wear the tuxedo because you take your job too seriously. Now, I want to know, how many tuxedos do you own? Like, do you wear like the same one? Do you have multiple tuxedos?
It's funny because I had the conversation with one of the kids, one of the newer students at New England Pro Wrestling Academy, Brendan Paul, who's becoming a really, really good referee. I just want to put that out there. We were in the men's locker room at the WWR Plus show yesterday, and I have my one tuxedo, obviously, that I wear in the ring, but I have another one that's a little bit big on me now. But I said to him, I go, Brendan, I said, how many other ring announcers that not only wear a tuxedo but have a backup in their suitcase? Because things can rip, or buttons can pop off or whatever. I do. I have a backup. So I mean, it's probably a size or two too big, but if something were to go awry, I could make do with what I got. But the very first tuxedo I had was bought for me in 1992 by a promoter who has long since passed away and never really got to promote a bunch of shows, but he actually bought me a tuxedo in 1992. And that was my first real experience in wrestling, because I go, it's going to go one of two ways. Either I'm going to be out $300 or this guy's going to stand by his word. And sure enough, paid $300 for a brand new tuxedo in 1992. And the guy handed me cash. He's like, just give me a receipt. Nothing ever came out of it, but that's the first tuxedo I wore for the late Tony Rumble when I did his first show in 93. But like I said earlier, I have no sponsor. I have no nothing. So, I mean, that's all coming out of my pocket. But as my weight fluctuated over the years, I've gone up, I've gone down. And so I've probably got two that I travel with, one that I wear, obviously. I have a backup, and then I'm pointing to a closet I have over here. I probably have like another jacket that's probably too big and whatnot, but yeah, I just never let go of things. Not that I want to grow back into the larger sizes again. But yeah, I'm always prepared. But I do have probably 13 or 14 different bow tie and vest combinations, because I never want people to see me wearing the same thing repeatedly. So I actually keep a log of what color I wore last time I was a Chaotic. I wore this color. Okay, I'm going to wear something different this time. Or every week for Wrestling Open on IWTV every Thursday night at 8 p.m. I actually have a list, literally, like it's within arm's reach. And I write down every week what color I wore, so I make sure I rotate it out. So if I wore black in week 1, I didn't wear it again till, like, say, week 15. And that's just as Tommy Dreamer says, that's how my wrestling brain works. And yeah, so I probably put more money into my gear than I should, but hey, these wrestlers are putting a lot into theirs. I might as well invest a little bit in myself and look the part. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
now,
sir.
You're famous for the bow tie, but have you ever thought of a necktie? Have you ever thought of wearing the long necktie?
I never, no. And my bow ties are clip-ons too. So, so there's another little secret. I'm not a fancy bow tie guy. No, to me, it's the traditional, like when I started, it was the bow tie and the cummerbund. I still have a stack of those in another closet down here. But I switched to the vests. But yeah, no, I've never thought about the necktie. No, it's not my thing. That's Bobby Cruz's deal. That's Bobby's. I don't want to steal his gimmick.
I don't want to steal that one. So growing up, you've talked about in other interviews growing up that you watched wrestling, and the ring announcer seemed like a pretty safe position. They didn't get messed up as often. So I wanted to talk about how did Joe McHugh end up from Championship Wrestling influence you as a ring announcer?
I can still hear that man's voice in my head today, and I can't watch enough old wrestling and hear Joe McHugh's voice. He and Gary Capetta,
Mhm.
and I'm friends with Gary to this day, which still blows my mind. But Joe McHugh, the late Joe McHugh, was the ring announcer for Championship Wrestling, and Gary Michael Capetta was the ring announcer for All Star Wrestling, which here in Boston area, anyways, abutted each other. I think Championship Wrestling was on the old Channel 56 at 11 a.m. on Saturdays, and All Star Wrestling was on noon on Channel 27 out of Worcester. And I was like, when I first started watching wrestling, I'm like, oh, there's two shows of big superstars beating up people that you don't know who they are. I refuse to use the J word, beating up enhancement talent. But Joe McHugh, yeah, like that was my guy. It's funny because when I'm with other like my age type colleagues and we're on road trips and stuff, I would do the whole Joe McHugh spiel as he opened every Saturday morning, because it was like probably a minute and 15 seconds of "This is Championship Wrestling, promoted by Phil Zacco, supervised by," and I mean, seriously, you can hear, I know it verbatim, but I took a lot of that of what I heard as a kid, and I've incorporated into mine, like, welcome to blah, blah, blah in such and such a town. Your referees, they don't do that anymore. Referees don't. I have friends that are WWE referees that aren't even acknowledged, and it ticks me off sometimes. They're not even acknowledged by name. Very rarely will you hear a referee's name. Yeah, your referees, and I'm your ring announcer. And, I can't do the Joe McHugh, but, I just, make sure every player in this, in this performance that you're going to see right now, I want you to know who everybody is, who every referee is, who every announcer is. I give a shout out to the commentary team for the bigger shows and stuff like that, just because I think everybody needs to be acknowledged, and it's the way it should be, all the way up to the big leagues. Sorry, Vince. But yeah, so.
That's what you're talking about, that everybody plays a role and you don't know how much goes into it unless you are sitting there like helping the show or get there before when the ring's getting set up.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's funny because it's all like part of, paying your dues and whatnot, but it's funny. People don't realize like what a team effort it is. That show might start at 8 o'clock at night, but you're not there when trucks are being unloaded at, 2:15, 3 o'clock, and rings are being set up and merchandise tables and concession stands and just and then after the show and everything that goes into it too. It's just, it's one big team effort, but we're all on the same team, and we're all aiming for the same cause. And, it's a team effort all around. I'll admit, I don't get my hands as dirty as I probably should, but I've done it plenty of times, but I'm always there with, if they're ever shorthanded, anything like that, I'm not above that, but as long as I'm out of my tuxedo, that's all. So seriously.
Oh, that's totally true. And to step aside from the ring announcing for a second, last year in 2021, you lost nearly 100 pounds. And so you're continuing your weight loss journey this year in 2022. So I was wondering if you could give like an update on how that's going.
Yeah, we're at 99.6. God does not want me to lose 100 pounds. I'm just convinced. I started January 4th, 2021. I weighed 299.5 pounds. I weigh myself every Saturday. I log everything I eat. This will help for the people that keep DMing me and asking me, what's the secret? It's diet and exercise. That's it. I didn't have any surgeries. I'm not doing any fad diets. The only thing I do invest in is the Weight Watchers app. So, and I log everything that I eat. Like, I literally cooked myself a swordfish steak tonight and some vegetable fried rice from Trader Joe's. And that was my dinner. And I logged in how much swordfish I ate. I had a cup of rice. Here's how many points, because everything's a point value. But anyways, I could go on forever about the diet, but 299.5 was not a good look. And as of this past Saturday, 199.9. Wow. So I have dear friends of mine, close friends of mine that I see regularly that are like, you can say you lost 100 pounds. I'm like, no, I've lost 99.6. I haven't lost 100 yet until that scale says 199 and a half. I don't know. And I weigh myself every Saturday. I don't go to Weight Watcher meetings. It's 100% accountability. So, and if I stray from my diet, I'm only cheating myself. So if I eat something I wasn't supposed to, I put it in there. And if I went over my points value for the day, the only thing I don't log in is my beer consumption though. And that's been a little bit too much lately, but I always say you don't really gain weight from drinking beer. You're just kind of renting it, and then you get rid of it. So
yeah, makes sense.
it's the summer and it's concert season and whatnot, but thank you for that. Yeah, I'm very, very passionate about it. Like I said, with the old tuxedos, I never want to look the way I did before. And I lived my whole life like that. And I lived a lot of my life. You could see the happy, smiling big guy in the ring, but inside just absolutely miserable, just no self-discipline, embarrassed. You see friends you hadn't seen for a long time and you're like bigger than the last time you saw them. It was rough. And, a lot of people struggle with that. I have a lot of friends that struggle with it too. And people tell me I'm like a motivator and what have you. And some local wrestlers in the area have lost some weight and told me, I helped, because I was posting every day. Oh, hey, look at me. I'm walking. I've lost 50 pounds. I've kind of got, as I get older, I'm getting further and further away from social media because it's just a dangerous, dangerous weapon. And I just hate listening to people and whine. And I'm the least political guy in the world. So I don't want to hear your political views. And because I'm not going to retort with anything because I really just don't have one. But yeah, I really appreciate you acknowledging that. I'm super, super proud of it. So thank you very much. And there'll be a tweet when I hit 199 and a half. That's all. If I ever get there. But like I said, God doesn't want me to, so I'm convinced. Diet Pepsi too, by the way. I hope we don't have to pay a sponsorship, but
no, I think the sponsorship is Men's Warehouse to finally get them to pay for the tuxedos there.
Seriously, that or somebody sponsor me so I don't have to buy my own t-shirts to sell it. But nah, it's all good. That's why I work a real job.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
pay for my wrestling habit.
There you go.
That's what we say. Anybody in the industry that still works a 9 to 5 is we work to pay for our wrestling habit. So, sorry, go ahead.
That's totally fine.
Cool.
No, so Anthony Greene, who is now in AEW and has been at Limitless and everything, calls you his wrestling dad. And I was wondering how this has come to be.
I think it's simply because I'm so much older than my wrestling son, Anthony Greene, but it's also because my son in real life's name is Anthony as well. So he has always called me dad, and I've always called him son. And I am so proud of. I've known him since he was just, a little kid coming to shows, and I'll never forget the day he came up to me at one of the Joe Bruin's Hall of Fame convention ceremonies, whatnot. He said, "Hey, Richie, I'm going to start training to be a referee." I will never forget it. We were in East Providence, Rhode Island. I was just getting out of my car and he came running up with his WWE encyclopedia. And I had my WWE encyclopedia because we were getting autographs that day. And I'll never forget when him telling me that he was going to start training to be a referee at my friend Bob Evans' old Slam Tech University school. And then just to see his progression and his time in WWE, and now he's going to Japan for the first time, and he's done stuff in AEW. Somebody I talk to and text with regularly, he's my wrestling son. So he's my adopted Anthony. So I have my son Anthony that takes all my money and eats all the food in my house and asks me to drive him everywhere. And then I've got my wrestling son Anthony who gets himself to shows and probably making far more money than I am on the indies, but yeah, that's why. Father and son, Rich Palladino, Anthony Greene. So he's one of my favorites, though. I absolutely love that kid. So
beautiful. It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
No, to go back in time a little bit, what was your time like in the Century Wrestling Alliance?
Wow, that's where I started. That's where it all started with Tony Rumble. I had mentioned the promoter who had bought me my tuxedo a year before I started with Tony. His name was Gordon Scazzari, and he had run one show. He had run a couple of shows, one somewhere in Jersey and one here in Lowell at the Lowell Auditorium in December of 91 that I went to as a fan sitting in the front row, and ended up doing commentary for that show that I went to in Lowell. I did commentary with Tony Rumble, who was another like TV favorite of mine from the ICW days and early ECW Eastern Championship Wrestling days. And it was weird. I was sitting in a studio in Maine with the Boston Bad Boy calling a show and seeing myself in the front row for every match that I was calling. It was kind of mind blowing. But that Gordon, who's long since passed away, and was really instrumental and helped me get into the business and meeting Tony. Gordon was going to run all these shows, and supposedly I had to buy the tuxedo because we were going to do a tour of Puerto Rico with the Rock and Roll Express. And I'm like, oh, okay, where do I sign? It's great. Okay. And Gordon never ran that show in Puerto Rico with the Rock and Roll Express. But Tony and I kept in touch. And then when Tony started running Century Wrestling Alliance up here in New England, he had reached out to me and was like, hey, you want to be my ring announcer? I was like, well, I've got the tuxedo. I might as well. Let's do it. And never asked what he was paying me. I just didn't care. I said, where do I have to be? It was October 23rd, 1993, Wakefield, Massachusetts, Wakefield High School. I grew up in Reading, Massachusetts. I could have gotten there blindfolded if I had to. I just, it was my stomping grounds. And there were 1,500 people there that night. It was like a sold show. It was like a fundraiser for like football or baseball or something. And I'm like, wow, this independent wrestling's great. Boy, did I learn quickly. Not every show has 1,500 people. But I mean, my mom, my mom was there, God rest her soul. My brother was there. My nephew, who just got married last year, was there as this little baby. The Iron Sheik was on the show, and I have a picture of him holding my little nephew, who like, well, I want to hold the baby. I'm like, okay, Sheiky, whatever you want, hold the baby. I have so many great memories because I'm still friends with people that I worked with in Century Wrestling Alliance, from 1993 until Tony passed away in 99. I mean, I've dear friends of mine that I still talk to regularly in this business that I met from there. And I owe everything that I've accomplished in this career. I don't know. I feel weird calling it a career when it's like a side hustle for me, but I have nothing but fond memories for the Century Wrestling Alliance. And I owe everything to Tony. And I've said that publicly more than once. And sometimes I get a little emotional because I cried like a baby when I found out that Tony passed away. November 13th, 1999. I will never, ever forget it. That man gave me an opportunity, didn't know me from Adam, didn't know me from a hole in the wall, and just gave me a chance, and I never looked back. So yeah, nothing but fond memories there. I'm in their Hall of Fame. That's one of my plaques back there. And they morphed into NWA New England. Imagine super fan like me, and I think it was 97, we became part of the National Wrestling Alliance. I'm like, wait a minute, the oldest governing, sanctioning body of professional wrestling, I work for them now? Didn't matter in my pay at the end of the day, but I was working for the NWA.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a pretty sweet thing for somebody like me, and for Tony to take that chance and put his money into whatever was involved with being part of the National Wrestling Alliance. It's just awesome. But yeah, nothing but fond memories from the beginning, those first 6 years of my career. I remember them like they were yesterday. Now I really sound like an old man. I sound like my dad. It's terrible. Oh my God. But anyway, sorry.
No, not at all. Not at all.
I ramble a lot.
Absolutely.
I ramble a lot. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine. It's totally fine.
Thanks. Thank you.
You mentioned your list of accomplishments, and I know that there's one on there that you're undefeated in your in-ring time, that you have the Goldberg streak, as you've called it.
Yes, 1-0. I'm retired, and I've probably done it on other interviews, but I'll use your platform as well to announce my official retirement from active competition in pro wrestling. I defeated, it's so funny because I was just with him a few weeks ago. I went to the ICW show in Boston a few weeks ago, and Larry Legend, the ring announcer, we had a match. lasted about a minute. I won by disqualification, and then I got beat up by the entire team Pazuzu, Pinky Sanchez, Santana, Ortiz, Chris Dickinson, Jaka. They all got me in the corner. I still remember Pinky choking me. I should probably find the video on YouTube and put it out there. But I defeated Larry by disqualification because this girl, Christina Diamond, who has left pro wrestling, is now a tremendous bodybuilder right now. She's not even a bodybuilder. She's like a fitness model. She does all the posing and all that stuff. Anyways, as I was wrestling Larry, she came up and got me in the nether regions, and Larry was disqualified. So I am undefeated, 1-0. I am the Bill Goldberg of, that should be my next t-shirt. I am the Bill Goldberg of wrestling ring announcers. I am undefeated at 1-0. So at least I'm saying it publicly. So I'm sure there's other ring announcers that have done stuff, but yeah, that's it. Undefeated. That's it. 1-0. I'm going to get a t-shirt. 1-0. Why not? So.
The Bill Goldberg of New England.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a new shirt. I'm telling you. It's awesome.
Now, you don't promote your shows when you're doing the ring announcing because you want them to, you feel like they should be going to the wrestlers, like the actual people there. So how do people find your table? Like, do they like wave you down or something?
I set up at the I set up my stuff at the tables every show, as long as there's space. I have been at shows where there hasn't been enough space, and I've taken my stuff down because who the hell am I to be selling merch? I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, to me, it's just my level of respect for what the wrestlers do versus what I do. I don't move a ton of merch. I could tell you though, today I got a DM and sold two t-shirts to a fan in New Jersey, literally just today. Watches Wrestling Open every Thursday night. He and his son, Wes and Kyle, out there in New Jersey. So hopefully I meet them someday. But yeah, no, I refuse to put over my own merch. I don't feel comfortable. I think my face turned a little red right now because I will never say, oh, and I have stuff over there too, go buy it, because I didn't take any bumps. I didn't get hit with a chair. I didn't fall on the floor and on land on the back of my head and need an ice pack or pour my knee out or whatever. So it's just me. I just won't do it. But if I'm there, I do okay with merch, but I have plenty of nights where I don't sell any merch, nor do I expect to. So I sold the lapel pin though at a WWR show. Usually the crowd there is there strictly for the women of Women's Wrestling Revolution Plus. I never sell merch, but there was space. I sold a pin. I don't care. To me, it's just who am I to plug my own stuff when I'm not making any sacrifices, So that's just me. I don't know.
Makes sense.
Modest, I guess. A little bit.
As we wind down here, I have one last question for you, and you might have to ponder this one. Is that if you had to choose one cartoon character to be your best friend, who would they be and why?
Peter Griffin.
Yeah.
Peter Griffin, because I am the biggest Family Guy fan. I always tell people I have no idea what's going on like in pop culture. I was talking to a friend of mine recently over the weekend, saying like, what is there for new rock and roll bands these days? I'm like, there's not. Rock and roll, it's all this pop and rap and whatever. I said, there's no great. That's why we see all the old timers coming out and still playing, or my favorite band, Kiss, who I've seen for like the 100th time just a couple weeks ago. But I was saying I know nothing about pop culture. I always tell people I watch professional wrestling. I watch my Boston Red Sox. I watch my New England Patriots. I'm a Celtics and Bruins fan, but I'm more of a baseball and a football fan. So if I'm not watching wrestling, the Sox or the Patriots, I love Family Guy. Jorky Secret, I am a huge fan of the show Friends, and I like Seinfeld. That's pretty much all I know in my world. But when you ask me favorite cartoon character, if Family Guy can be considered cartoon, Peter Griffin just instantly makes me laugh. Whatever comes out of his mouth, His delivery, his timing, I just wish he was like a real human being that I could hang out with at a bar and drink some Pawtucket Pat beers like they have on the show there. But yeah, I'd have to say Peter Griffin. So
that is wonderful here. He's got those good old fashioned family values.
he sure does. Those green pants and that white shirt. I mean, he just makes me laugh every time I watch that show. So I am a child, but yeah, 53-year-old child.
It's worked out for you so far.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. I'm doing okay. I only got gray in my beard. I still got all my hair. I'm not bad for 53, but yeah, it's what it is.
There you go. That is absolutely wonderful. And I thank you. This has been a tremendous joy and a tremendous pleasure to have you on here. Where can people find you on the internets?
I'm on Facebook. Like I said, I've been taking a bit of a Facebook break, but just under Rich Palladino. At Rich Palladino. You're more apt to find me on Twitter at Rich Palladino, 2 L's, Palladino. And Instagram, if you want to see pictures of me and pro wrestlers, I'm on Instagram as Ringside Rich. And I have a TikTok because my daughter had me set it up. And I think she and I made a couple of videos, and I made one of my dog today because, again, I'm a child. And I don't even know what I am on that one. So just find me on Twitter at Rich Palladino. That's how Kevin found me for this interview. And Ringside Rich. And you could see the picture of me. That's pretty much what my Instagram is. Majority is me and any wrestlers that'll take a picture with me. It's usually what I got up there. So that's where I am. And if you
There you
want
go.
shirts and stuff, I'll plug it on an interview any day of the week. Just DM me and I can ship them out. It's or I've got them at the shows, but yeah, hit me up on social media. I love interacting with people when time allows. When I'm not on the road every weekend and when I'm not working my real job or driving my children where I'm supposed to drive them or whatever, but they're driving me crazy. So, yeah, that's all I got. I appreciate you having me on, Kevin. I really do. So
I thank you so much. You can check this out on the YouTube channel, Signature Voice Production. You can find it on, or you can see my Twitter account, which is @Praik Journalist. So that's PRAIK, the word journalist. There's the Facebook page, Signature Voice Production. And my website, you can check my online portfolio at signaturevoiceprod.net. So that's Signature Voice and then PROD. You think I would know the address to my own website.
hey, I don't know what my TikTok is. Don't worry about it.
PROD.net. And that would be absolutely fantastic. Again, Rich, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for doing this. I greatly appreciate it. And
no problem. Anytime.
Here's to another 29 years.
I hope so. Thank you.